Oh, that's much worse than it should be. Here we go, friends.
That's what I was like, I don't think I did that.
Yeah, that's basically.
49.3%. Chances are it's just a misplaced number somewhere. Now the way I did it, I cheated a little bit. And when I say cheat, I use mathematics a little bit because I saw that these were doubled. So I just did 2 times those added together, rather than entering them each in individually. So I use distributive property. My apologies for using distributive property for my favorites. But that's the actual chance. 49.3% of winning.
Approximately half.
That is damn close to half, isn't it? That's damn close to half. And that's why the game is so awesome. Because it's damn close to half. Now, it couldn't possibly be half, yes? Because if it were half,
then casinos would go out of business.
if they continue to run the way they do, yes. If they continue to run, leaving the lights on all night long, 24/7, 365.
Giving people free drinks.
Giving people free drinks.
If it was half, then they would.
Bellagio fountains in the middle of the desert.
No money would be made.
Exactly, that would be a perfectly fair game if it was half. It would mean that you would win just as often as you would lose, and everybody would break even. You and the casino. And that's the problem for the casino. It's great for you, because essentially you walk in and you walk back out with what you started with. Essentially, yes? That's what so what they do is they control that. Now, it was convoluted as hell, wasn't it? It was convoluted as hell by controlling it. But by controlling the game in this way, which is genius, they keep you winning only 49.3% of the time, which gives the house an edge of whatever that left over, 50.7%. Okay, they get that slight edge over you. But that slight edge is all they need. Because think about how many games of craps are played every day. Every casino, every day, every week, every month, every year, every casino, everywhere. All those little tiny bits. I think of Office Space right now. The movie Office Space, when they decided to keep the money for the rounding errors. That adds up over time, and pretty quickly actually, for that matter. So, let's recalculate, friends. Let's recalculate. Remember that cool average we did over there, using 40 and 60%? That was the experimental average. Now that we've got a better estimate, let's use the theoretical one. Let's come back to this. So this was the experimental. Let's do the exact same computation, but theoretically. Theoretically, we're going to lose. We're going to win. See, this is a win. I keep saying lose for 0. We're going to win 49.3% of the time. And we're going to lose that ante the remainder of the time, which is 50.7%, yes?
Right. Parts
Yes.
of the days,
Yeah.
So we just said, be a bonus check to me. I've always wanted
So by doing that same calculation we just did over there,
thousands of dollars.
which was that times that plus that times that divided by 1, you end up getting an average loss of negative 50.7 cents per game. Which means, essentially, every time you put a double, see how I got that? That times that, plus that times that. Divided by 1, but that doesn't change anything. So really all it is just that times that. That times that plus that. Same as we did over there. So, when you give the casino $1, they keep 50.7 cents of that dollar and return 49.3 cents to you, on average.
Is that basically the same as that?
It's exactly the same as this, except it's adjusted for the correctness of the theoretical probability. What Nick is drawing a parallel to is that the same average we calculated over here? It is, but you see how ours is a little bit worse? We lost 57, not 50.7. So we were actually gouging ourselves for 7 more cents. We were off by about 7%, a little over 6% actually in our estimate, because we didn't have a large enough replication of the game. We'd have to play the game tens of thousands of times to let everything fall into place like it just did theoretically up here. So that's why we were off. And that's why I also mentioned that eventually down the road, some class is going to clean up. They're going to lose less than they should. You guys lost more than you should, but some other class is going to lose less than they should.
Because as more turns go by, more classes.
Yes, we're going to play the game, the probabilities begin to stabilize. This brings up a good point, thank you, Nick. When you do your out-of-class exam for next week, there's an Excel spreadsheet component to it. Your job is going to be to press F9 down and let Crapscapes happen.
Oh my God.
Let it play lots and lots of times, like 10,000, 15,000 times. If you get bored, bring a book. When you go to do your exam, bring a book or something else to work on, and take a stapler, put it on the F9 button, and let it run. And then just walk away from it, and then read a book. Do something else. Do the rest of the exam at that point, honestly. Because you need to let the game play for a couple different reasons. Number one, for that reason. If you let it play 200 times, you're not going to get a very good image of what's going on. But number two, Excel has a mistake that's only corrected by letting it go thousands and thousands and thousands of tries. So yeah, that's why you guys, your estimate was too harsh. Too harsh by 6.3 cents on average. You just didn't play enough. We have to play more to see that. And that's where Excel really shines. So that's the number that Vegas keeps in their head, right there, for a pass line bet. As long as that's below 50 cents on a dollar bet, they're happy.
So if we were in Vegas right now and we didn't play as much, we would lose an average of...
That's assuming that you guys, if you played 230 games in Vegas, replicated exactly what you just did, which is basically not going to happen. There's no way of knowing what your average is going to be personally on 10 games or so. That's why Shelly said, when I go in there, I go and play 5 games and get back out. She wins a little bit and gets back out. What happens if you lose a little bit?
I'm still late.
You still leave. So basically, Shelly's idea is don't let the long-term average kick in, whether you're losing or winning. If you're winning and you walk out, then you're like, hell, I want to win it and I walk out. If you're losing and you walk out, you're probably doing worse than average, but you expect it to. So if you can get out while you're ahead, this is why deal or no deal is also brilliant. Let's just keep playing, Howie, let's just keep playing. That's the worst thing you can do. You have to be doing the math along the way to figure out when you should stop playing. And the math is not trivial for that game either. That's why I asked you guys last week, is it going to be craps, Powerball, or deal or no? I think you made the right choice. Craps is easy to summarize in a class period, I think. But of course, that was just a pass line bet. While you're out of class, you'll look at the don't pass bet, and then if you're interested, you can go to Wikipedia and look at the other ways to bet, which are also equally crappy for you as the player. We already analyzed the bet on box cars for snake eyes.
And now it's going to be
So,
crap.
make
I
sense?
wrote it down. I wrote it down.
Make sense?
Tell 'em.
So you'll continue this discussion on your out-of-class exam for next week using Excel, or you can just roll dice all day long too. That's fun too. But it's more, at least now you understand. Now, why would I ever make you think about something like this? Remember how I said it's like life insurance? How is this like life insurance? How is this like life insurance? Benji.
It's sordid to say, but the insurance companies have to bet on you getting sick or dying. If it were profitable, if it were, again, if it were the 50%
I don't think they're going to
on
agree
your
with
favor,
it.
it wouldn't work.
Well, check this out. Benji's hit the nail on the head. Suppose that's the chance of you living through the year. It's awful. But suppose that's the chance of you living through the year, 50.7%. That means that's the chance of you dying through the year, 49.3%. Okay? Again, this is awful. It's much closer to half and half than it should be. But here's the deal. If you live through the year and you bet $1 to play, what's that the same as life insurance-wise?
You bet a premium.
You bet your premium. When you pay the bill, that's an ante. You're saying, I'm playing the game. Here's my ante. The payout, and here's the morbid part, the payout happens when you die. Because when you die, the insurance company doesn't make any money because they give your survivors the policy, whether it's $10,000, $20,000, $100,000. But even though they give you a butt ton of money on the death, if you die, the number of people that are living bringing money in for the policy still keeps the average paid negative for the people paying. Which means most people that buy premiums on life insurance aren't going to die, which gives the life insurance company the money they need to create the pot of money for those that do.
And for people who are more likely to die,
Exactly, like smokers and
smokers.
what? See, this is an argument you will not win. Rock
So
climbers
we're
are not
saying
more
they're
likely to
safe.
die.
Using your
But you're right. Then you're right. That's exactly. They have actuarial tables.
Yeah.
Like Benji's saying, smokers pay more per premium because they're more likely to die over time, on average.
They
Was it? Rock climbing is one that pisses me off, but bike commuting has not come up yet. I don't bring it up either. But bike commuting has not come up yet because I'm sure I'm more likely in an insurance actuary's eyes to die bike commuting than driving. Even though statistically, far more people are killed on percentage-wise every year. Not just number-wise, but percentage-wise driving than biking.
Yes, yes.
So that's where all this is exactly like buying life insurance policy. Micah?
So, my question
Yes.
is on this,
Yes.
with the life insurance.
Yes.
You have 100% guaranteed mortality rate.
I will die eventually.
Yes.
Yes, that's why you don't buy policies for your lifetime.
But,
Because you
not
don't
this
want to
year.
keep it.
Right.
The reason
Not
they would
this year.
pay someone who smokes, does whatever, would have a higher premium is because the mortality rate is a sooner event on average.
Within the year, you don't buy these things. Nobody has an insurance policy, as far as I can tell, that you purchase when you're 20 and is good for your entire life.
Okay.
They have to be renewed every so often. And why are they renewed every so often? So they can
can
recalculate
revalidate.
your probabilities. Smokers included. Smokers have a shorter horizon, on average, than non-smokers.
Okay.
So that's why certain policies won't even insure smokers,
Yeah.
right? They won't even insure them because their likelihood is too far out of their comfort zone.
Right.
But the idea, that's why I said this is a chance of me dying within the year. Not within my lifetime. It's of course 100% within the lifetime. It goes exponential at the end of it. But the idea is these are not sold for your lifetime. They're sold for a finite life period. A year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, maybe at the most. They don't give you a life insurance policy for
Well,
life.
there's one.
Fair enough? Very, very good, sir. Very, very good. Although there are things called, oh hell, there are those plans that are like bank accounts, though. That's what they're called now. Not term. There used to be, they might not even offer these anymore because of the financial collapse, but there were life insurance policies you paid into, and a term life insurance policy, basically if you ante up and you live, you lose your ante.
I know.
But there are other policies where you ante up, and if you live, part of that money goes into a savings account. Whole life, I think it's called. Do they still offer that? See, my wife does all this stuff, I don't have to worry about it.
I think they offer that for children under 18.
Boom! Less likelihood of dying. Therefore, why would I offer to a 65-year-old person
Right.
who's smoking 5 packs a day?
Right.
Because statistically, they are not likely to make it much longer than an 18-year-old kid.
Right. And
Now-
that money technically is supposed to be a college account.
Oh, good! So a trust fund, essentially. Good! I hadn't thought about that. Okay, so whole life versus term. Those are the terms I remember using.
So that means if your child decides to become employed instead of going to school, they lose that money. So there's got to be a certain percentage of kids, they have to go to college to get
And they
that money.
obviously know that number or they wouldn't be
Right.
offering it.
Right.
They know that number
So that's
statistically.
where they're making their money, is on the kids that don't
Less
go to
likely
college.
to have premature death.
Boom, stuff like, there's all kinds of correlations. It's amazing the correlations you see statistically between levels of education and mortality. I mean, smoking and mortality is an obvious one, but levels of education and mortality, race and mortality, race and certain kinds of disease. I mean, it's crazy, all these different correlations, and the actuaries know them all. That's why you do these questionnaires that take 3 hours when you apply for life insurance, because they're getting all those data points and trying to fit you into a picture of what you are. That's why it took me an hour to talk about rock climbing. And I'm educating the agent while he's talking. So, and I think I told you that the misconception was sport climbing was climbing without a rope. So think about that. I told him I sport climb sometimes. He's like, oh my God, they put you in the risk group. Like, how is it in the risk group? You don't use a rope. Like, timeout. Sport climbing, you use a rope. Free soloing, you don't use a rope. And he's like, oh. And he looks at his sheet, and the sheet had sport climbing defined as free soloing. And I'm like, oh my God. How many people are you gouging for money or turning away from policies because you think, that's like saying, riding a motorcycle is like putting razor blades down your pants. I mean, I don't know, it's completely different things. That's a little bit extreme. But the idea is that when the definition is off. So once we corrected the definition, my rates went way, way down because they realized, oh, what they were calling traditional climbing is actually sport climbing. Boom, 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 everything flushed out. It was still higher than a non-rock climber. Because all things being equal, I have a higher chance of dying rock climbing than not rock climbing. Because there's always a chance I can die. But considering, and this is what's so funny about the conception of things like rock climbing, well, it's a risk-taking activity. Everything about rock climbing, if you're doing it properly, is about not dying. You use a rope, you back up things in triplicate or quadruplicate. I mean, you have more of a chance of dying walking across the crosswalk at COCC in the pitch black of night. By the way, FYI, folks,
Don't do that.
if you, no, do it, but wear light clothing. I have seen so many people, I almost hit them on my bike, coming down College Way at 25, the speed limit, FYI, on my bike, and almost crashing into people in the crosswalk dressed in black, 8 o'clock at night. I've also emailed the safety committee at COCC to put brighter lights down there.
Oh, yeah.
Because the lights aren't the greatest right there on those crosswalks. They are lit, but they're lit very far off the road. I'm not sure why. There's very bright lights at other places on College Way, just not the crosswalks. So please, raise the likelihood of being seen and put a little blinky light on you or something, like I do on my bike. I'm always thanked by the folks at Juniper when they say, is that you on the bike with the 8,000 lumens of light and the blinky red? Yes, you saw me, didn't you? Thank you for not hitting me. All right, Wednesday. Do the homework for probability. There's one last homework assignment. I mean, there's actually more in your homework sheet, but just do the last one. Probability homework, bring that to class on Wednesday. You got a project to do, I think. Excel project. Knock those things out. I threw a quiz up for Wednesday too. If you want to do it, by all means, have at it. It's optional like everything else, or like the other quizzes. And we'll talk about next week, which is your last in class and your last out of class exam. Mike, let me shut the camera down. Go. Paper. Oh yes.